in the first 5 minutes of the call, that's great. But now having something for business owners, I'm going to share my screen real quick. When we talk about like the executive bonus plans and the ability to actually do something for someone on a giant scale, that when they're starting to put in that kind of money, and we do want to run some numbers for them and show them how they can actually get some additional benefits inside an executive bonus plan. So that bonus plan allows us to actually let the company pay the bonus over to that executive, the owner of the company, and then they're going to get all the benefits of an IUL, but the company is funding that in the profits from their business, and their business gets the tax write-off for paying that into it. So being able to have that conversation with someone, again, that's a little bit more on the advanced side as far as what can happen for the client. But when we run the numbers, now it's a matter of they aren't trying to minimize how much money they're putting in. They're trying to maximize how much money. Instead of trying to put the smallest amount of premium for an insurance policy, now they realize they're funding an account. And you were talking about someone like putting cash in, cash out, that ability for someone to actually use the money out of this. And this is just one example. Here's a guy that had, he's buying properties, and he wants to buy properties. He got an inheritance of about $1 million, and he wanted to use about $100,000 on each property to use as the down payment to buy. And he wanted to go buy 8, 9, 10 different properties. But if he did that, the $1 million would be gone. Right. And the rents may not be completely keeping up with the mortgages and other costs of ownership. So he may or may not be in a positive cash flow situation immediately, but then he wants to get the appreciation on the properties. He takes that same $1 million and instead puts $100,000 a year into his IUL. And by doing that, by the second year, he can take a loan of $73,000 out to buy that first house. Then he's taking out $92,000 a year out every year to buy another house. So he still gets to buy all the houses, right? But his policy value is still 1.1 million. So now he has all the houses, but he also has his policy value. Plus, he's got $3.9 million of death benefit if something happens that he's not having to pay for, because that $1 million is still in that account. The growth on that is completely covering the cost. So he has no cost on that plan. But then as far as what that plan is going to actually do for him down the road, not only does he have the revenue from the houses, when he goes to retire, he's going to have the income from the actual plan. Let me zoom out here, get the right one. So then when he goes to retire, he's got all the positive cash flow from his properties, but he also is taking out $150,000 a year completely tax-free out of his IUL. So all that money that's grown in the account, his policy value, his net surrender, so all of that's happening for the rest of his life. He's got that $150,000 tax-free, and he had the coverage in place, and he had the ability to still buy all the houses he wanted to buy. He still got the positive cash flow. Oh, but wait, on the property taxes, in this, he's got the cash still. He could take loans out of this to cover all the property taxes each year as well. So taking $1 million and buying the houses wasn't the right play. The right play was moving that $1 million into, whether it's $1 million or whether it's $5,000 a month, doesn't matter. It's still moving the money into the IUL and then being able to leverage the IUL to pull cash out to do the things he wanted to do. So just understand that there's a lot of additional things besides just, hey, let's get your coverage in place. Let's make sure your family's protected. Let's make sure you have the long-term care benefits. When we talking to business owners, there's some ways to leverage and layer some benefits inside that as well. And that's, again, you want your masses, you want your team to be able to do low-hanging fruit. Couple $100 a month IUL, $100 a month, $1 million babies. You want them doing those all day long. And then when they have the bigger clients, you want them bringing those to you. You guys handle the best, hand off the rest, right? You make sure that you're doing the bigger things and you're getting the big deals across the finish line. Your average agent can handle the low-hanging fruit. They can do the $200, $300, $400 a month IULs. They can do the $1 million babies all day long. Let them have tons of those. And you obviously you're doing some training with them on those first 3-4 appointments. You're getting split sales on those, but the bigger deals you're making sure they're bringing those to you, because you're not doing a lot of trainings on how to do that. You're making sure that they leverage you to do that, And that's going to be able to separate and identify your top players who then become your specialists on high identity net worth clients, your business owners, your people that need rollovers, that type of thing. And you're going to have a few key people that you've identified and separated that your team will be using. Let them focus, let them keep blinders on doing the fundamental basic things over and over and over again.
Okay. So
think like a business owner. Think like a business owner. You don't want everyone to be a master of all things. They can't. They're not. They don't have the capacity. You want to separate and identify the few people that can keep the average person doing this low hanging fruit all day long.
The other question that
even though you didn't take
I just do it via this slide. Does all of it for me. So I can just use this one slide to have that conversation. And really, I bash the industry. Because we're part of the industry, but we're changing these. We've disrupted the industry. So if they have a financial advisor, I'll never say their guy is a bad guy, but I have no problem saying that they've got some bad training, right? So just make sure you never get ahead by offending somebody's first decision. If you make someone feel like an idiot about their first decision, they're not going to make a new decision with you. So I always want to let a person know you made the best decision you could with the information you had. I say that all the time. Hey, you made the best decision you could with the information you had at the time. So if you're going to take a note, that's a note to add into your presentation before you show a compare and contrast of what you did before and what I'm going to recommend you do different. Always reassure them that, hey, you did the best thing you could with the information you had at the time. Now, one of the things, Robert, you may have heard is you've heard financial advisors say when the market goes down, you didn't really lose your money because even though the market went down, eventually the market will come back up. And so you didn't really lose anything because you didn't retire on that day. So have you ever heard something like that before? And they will always say, yep, I've heard that before. I got to get that agreement first. Have you heard something like that before? And I make it super soft. Something like that. I don't make it say, have you heard those exact words come out of your financial advisor's mouth? I don't need that. Have you ever heard something like that before where you didn't really lose anything because if you just wait, it'll come back up again? And they will always say yes. Now, I've always shown rule of 72 by this point. So we've already talked about the fact that at 10%, money doubles, right? If you take the rule of 72, if we're making 10%, money doubles every 7.2 years, right? So let's take a look at this. Let's say the market went down. Let's say you had $100,000 in your account. The market went down 40%. You now only have $60,000 in your account. That's what's left. That's the balance. They will tell you you didn't lose anything. And the way they'll prove this to you is they'll tell you to go look at your statement and look at the dollar amount and then look at the amount of shares that you have. And they'll say, look, you had 2,000 shares. Yeah, your dollar amount went down, but you still have all 2,000 shares. So you didn't lose anything. You still have all your shares. And eventually those shares will go back up in value. That's what they try to convince you on, Joe and Mary. Here's my challenge with that. The next year, the market does 26%. Do you get 26% on the old 100,000? Do you get 26% more shares? Or do you get 26% only on the dollars that are left in your account? And 100% of the time, they'll say, well, only on the dollars left on my account. So what happened to the other $40,000? It's gone. I ask a rhetorical question and I answer it myself. What happened to the other $40,000? It's gone. It's no longer there to earn interest. Well, maybe that's not too bad. Maybe if someone stole $40,000, that doesn't bother you. But if you're 45 years old and you're planning on retiring at 65 years old, the 40,000 is not in your account 7 years from now to double to 80,000. It's not there to double 7 years after that to 160,000. And it's not there 7 years later to double to 320,000. So for every $40,000 that they tell you they didn't lose, which they lie, and they may not be lying personally. You can put them on a lie detector. They may believe what they're saying, but whoever taught them to say that taught them to lie because that not losing $40,000 cost you $320,000 in future value on that account. So maybe losing $40,000 doesn't bother you, but if somebody stole $320,000 from you, would that be a little upsetting? Would that be a little frustrating? That's literally what happened. Every time the market took a dip, for every $100,000 you had in your account, they stole $320,000 from you. If I could protect you from that, if I can show you how to never take a loss in the market ever again, would you be opposed to hearing about that? Boom. So that's how I cover the you didn't lose anything conversation. Now, I'm willing to do that and record it. I'm